thank you very much for tuning into Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And I am Hawkeye, and I thank everyone coming to Hawkeye's House of Horrors, whether this is the first time you ever seen me do a movie review, or if you're a subscriber or viewed anything else I've been done, returning to see another movie review. And I am very pleased to bring my next horror film from 1981 that I definitely think is worth seeing. And this baby is going to get boom, the Triple H from me, Hawkeye's House of Horrors. Highly recommended for me, but it is a gore fest, a splatter fest. Gotta have a bit of a strong stomach for this one because it is by Lucio Fulci. This is a third one of his I've done so far, and the third of the Gates of Hell trilogy. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the middle of those films, all with Katrina McCall is in each of those films, and she is in this one as well. Um, so yeah, this will be a review for The Beyond. And it's interesting. I had Popeyes for lunch, so I know all about Louisiana now. Sorry. Uh, I love their chicken sandwiches. But anyways, back to the film here. As I said, this one is directed by Lucio Fulci. It was released on April the 29th, 1981 in Italy. Um, Interestingly, I don't think it was released in the United States uncut until 1998, and I think not in United Kingdom until 2001. So it was a very long time getting an uncut, pure look at Fulci's vision in the Beyond, and it certainly is gory. There is no doubt about that. So it definitely, due to this, may have hurt Um, initially, some of the box office returns on this film, I think it made its money back and everything like that. Um, but it did not perform as well, say, as City of the Living Dead or House by the Cemetery, the other two in the Gates of Hell trilogy. Now, the story of this film was done by Giordano Sacchetti, who did City of the Living Dead and The House by the Cemetery, the other two, as well as The New York Ripper. All of those were Fulci films. And then the screenplay was done by Sacchetti, Giorgio uh, Mariozzo, who did The House by the Cemetery, Enigma, and also Contraband. All three of those were Fulci as well, films, and Lucio Fulci as well helped with the screenplay. Now, from what I found out, it had a budget of $400,000. Um, and as I said, I think it made its money back, so it did okay at the box office. It wasn't anything close to a home run or really good returns, I don't think, but it didn't lose money, I don't think, at the box office. Now, the it was filmed in late 1980, but it did find it wrapped, or the final date was December the 22nd, 1980, so just before Christmas, and then was released like 4 months later. Now, McCall has stated that this is her favorite film of the Gates of Hell trilogy. And personally, I would agree with that. And I would even go as far as to say this may be my favorite Fulci film that I've seen. I certainly haven't seen every single one of his films, but I've seen quite a few of them. Um, I'm certainly more apt to enjoy Fulci of the 70s and the early 80s. I think he had it going on there, just like Dario Argento. It's very the same. That's when I really liked his films um, in Italian horror films. Um, but I think this may be my favorite Fulci film of all time, and hopefully I'll certainly bring reasons as to why I believe that about this film. Now, as well in this, McCall also proves she's a pretty good screamer as well. By the third act, she belts out a couple of good screams in this one, and she's, I guess, actually Lucio Fulci's personal scream queen, as she was in all three of the Gates of Hell films as well. So I'm going to get into the story of the film and then go into things I really like about this film. and love about it and give this film such a high praise. So at the beginning of the film, we're set up with, personally, might be Fulci's best opening to a film. It's set in 1927 in Louisiana, and we have this hotel that we see. But we also see this mob of angry, yet very silent mob of people in boats coming to this hotel. And they're not to be messed around with, this group of guys. Now, it was shot in sepia or black and white in the beginning, and I think it works really well. And Fulci is setting up the tone for the rest of the film. And he does an excellent job in doing both because there's certainly gore and an incredible gory scene in the beginning that allows him to do that, set up the rest of the film in this way. Um, so when this group gets a hold of him, the owner of this hotel, I think his name was Schweck, I think. Um, but anyways, they get a hold of him and they actually crucify him in the basement of this hotel. Oh, and they also like throw acid in his face as well. So very graphic goings on just before the credits even roll in this film. I find actually in the beginning of this, Fulci does close-ups. Um, he does do that. And I think it works really well in sepia. Like it really brings something out with these close-ups, and it is quite effective. Now, in addition, in this beginning of the film, we have a character named Emily. She shows up later in present times, but she's also back in 1927. This is played by Sarah Keller. Um, she's reading from this book that shows up definitely in the rest of the film. It kind of tells about the goings on and really about this hotel because this hotel is actually over one of the gates to hell. And this book tells people about that. But she's reading from this book. And I really like this introduction because at the end of this intro, then we are introduced to color from this book as a sparkling, vibrant flames come out and shoot out from this book, bringing color to the film. Very effective and great visual there by Fulci. Really good job. So then we're brought to the present day around 1981. And the beautiful Katrina McCall has inherited this building and she's looking to restore it. And as I said, we find or we know that this building is over top of the gate of hell, one of the seven gates to hell. This building is. Now, this film is absolutely um, more so than any other Fulci film I've seen. It's got these incredible images of characters that are like seared in my mind. Um, and I personally, I think they did a wonderful job in casting and creating these costumes for these characters that work so well with them that, um, and of course, uh, other images with these characters in the Fulci film. Um, and for example, there's Joel the plumber, his daughter, redheaded girl named Jill, played by Maria Pia Marsala, and Emily. When she comes into present day, she's blind actually, and she has a dog named Dickie that like sticks by her side. So it's like two of them together. These characters. There's also Martha as well. Um, she's played by Veronica Lazar. There's her character as well. Um, that just they're seared in my mind. These people, the images of these people. I think Fulci did a great job in doing that. Now, I think in addition to these characters, and because it's a Fulci film, each of these characters also has a very violent, gory, and very memorable death. Um, uh, as I put down, this is not a slasher film, no, but a couple slashers that I have done recently, like Friday the 13th Part 2 and Halloween 2. Um, None of those deaths are really as memorable as what we have in this Fulci classic. It outdoes this film outdoes everything in both of those two films put together, in my opinion. Um, and perhaps maybe this is why I'm so drawn to this film. I'm certainly not a person who thinks I'm only drawn to gory horror films. And some gory horror films aren't good. And some horror films that have no gore are amazing. So it's not a prerequisite or something that you need within the ingredients of the horror film for me to enjoy it. But if it's done well enough, or Fulci is one, he's able to get away with it, if you will. But I have seen some of his which are gory that, meh, I can take it or leave it. Um, but so it's just more than the gory deaths that I need in order for me to enjoy it. Now, as I put down, this is the genre, the subgenre and horror of it's multiples. It's like a haunted house, ghost story, possession, zombie film. Really, it's all of those. And you can see it clicking into the next step or that next subgenre, like as the film progresses. It's very interesting. And one thing as well, this film has, count 'em, three different deaths involving eyeballs. It's very gory, some of those. Now, I absolutely need to talk about the score to this film. Excellent music here done by Fabio Frizzi, who also did Zombie. That was spectacular. City of the Living Dead, spectacular. And The Psychic. Um, Off the top of my head, I don't remember the score to that, but that is a really good flick. Um, one of Fulci's best as well. That's one of his better films as well from the late 70s. Um, but the score in this is an excellent use of the flute. Um, and when I compare it to like Zombie, which was very keyboard driven, there are keyboards in here, um, but he's using different instruments and it works so beautifully together when he adds all of those things together. And the score actually gets better every time I listen to it. It's awesome. Um, I think of it um, almost like Jerry Goldsmith's The Omen meets Jethro Tull or something like that in weird layman's terms. But it's an excellent score and an absolute plus to this film, done by Fabio Frizzi. Now, a couple of different things. I really enjoy the look of a gravesite or the cemetery that they have that would have been down in Louisiana. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was down in there, I believe. And this is where I believe they're burying both of Jill's parents. Um, but I like the look. It's got a very gothic feel and a very different look than perhaps most of your American horror films, which is fun because this really isn't an American film. This is an Italian horror master. It's just set in Louisiana. Um, so that's kind of interesting as well. Now, the character that Katrina McCall plays, her name is Lisa. Sorry, uh, and I really like the look that she's in the hospital at the time, and the zombie uh, crashes through a glass door to get at her, and it's grabbing at her. It's got her by the hair, and she's like screaming for her life. I really like the that look, and I think that look was on some of the posters for this film when it was released. It was a really good look, a really iconic look, and I really enjoyed that look or that scene there. And once again, Fulci, I I gotta say, probably the best I've seen him do this was. It may have been City of the Living Dead. I thought that it was tremendous in that one, but he really is doing excellent work here using uh, light and dark shots quite effectively. He's doing it really well here, and yeah, like as I was saying though as well, there's memorable deaths in this one. Um, we have Jill's mother, Mary Ann, involving acid on the face. Um, you have Martha. Um, you have a nail going through the back of her head. Um, you also have Martin Avery, played by Michelle Mirabella. Um, it was interesting. It was probably, it may be one of the better known deaths in the film, I think, because it involves spiders and a lot of them. I'm not a spider guy at all. No. But it's interesting because Lucio Fulci shows up and does a cameo as a librarian who's bringing him in, and it's actually the same library that they used in The House by the Cemetery. But Fulci is actually playing the librarian, and he lets him read the book. So he tells him, "Hey, I'll lock up so you won't be bothered." That's not a bad sign in a horror film, is it? Yeah. So he falls off his giant ladder and is like paralyzed because it's a Fulci film and the victims are always powerless. And then these tarantulas come out and begin eating away at him. And a very graphic death once again. Um, Personally, maybe some people this was their favorite death or kill in the film. I find the scene actually drags on too long, um, which is interesting because none of the other ones do at all. But this one, it kind of drags on too long, in my opinion. But in the end, it doesn't hurt the film at all. It's definitely something new or memorable, and there's that. And then perhaps my favorite kill in the film is Emily, who comes face to face with all of the victims so far in the film. And this is in her house that in reality is abandoned. Nobody lives there. She's not there, but she is there. Um, and when you watch the film, certainly at first you're like, well, she's obviously a ghost come back from the dead to try and warn Lisa um, of the house or the gate to hell. But you find in this scene that's not really what she is. She's actually been brought back, and she's screaming to not be taken back, to be taken to hell. I find that kind of scary, and in a sense, almost. And I have no idea if it was in any which way maybe an influence to Clive Barker and Hellraiser. Maybe. I'm not sure. And maybe not. I'm not sure when Hellraiser uh, was written. It may have been before this. I'm not sure, but um, it's very interesting, I find. But and then of course in the end, Dickie, her dog, takes a chomp out of her neck uh, and her ear, and there's lots of gore. So, but I haven't talked about my favorite character in this film, and that is Dr. John McCabe, played by David Warbeck. I actually found out he was actually pretty close to actually becoming James Bond at one time before Roger Moore was available and did Live and Let Die. But he was very close to becoming James Bond himself. Um, he's, as I said, a doctor, but he's got to be one of the coolest doctors in film history, I think. He's got like this Indiana Jones like scruff going on, and he's got like this dirty, hairy attitude, which is cool. Sorry, he doesn't carry a 44 mag, but at the same time, he doesn't believe all the tales that Lisa's spinning about this house, about the gates of hell. He doesn't believe it. He's like, well, I think you're just going crazy. Um, I don't believe it until he sees these things himself. And by then, you find it's too late to turn back. Um, and then in the end of the film, you find these two characters, Dr. McCabe and Lisa, are actually within the painting that Schweck was creating at the beginning of the film. And then their eyes are like Emily's and all the other characters. When they become possessed, the blinding of the eyes, you see that it's almost like a reptilian kind of look, the eyes themselves. And I must say, I did find the ending kind of scary. It was a much better ending, say, than City of the Living Dead, where it's sort of like abrupt and almost like they didn't really maybe have an ending or couldn't figure out really how to end that film. But I really like this film, the ending of this film as well. And then a very good song, Seven Doors Hotel by Europe. I think that was off their first album in 1983, was actually based on this film. And I listened to that song about 15 minutes ago. It's a good one. For any of you rockers out there, give that one a listen. It's pretty good. So, anyways, that's it. That's Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. And I've done all the gates of hell. Interesting. Those have all been done um, by me, reviewed. So, anyways, I would definitely say don't watch this one if you don't like gore. It's definitely for those with a stronger stomach or those who can handle seeing gore and stuff like that. But anyways, I can't wait to bring you my next review, and it may be another Halloween film. Have yourself an excellent day, and don't forget, stay scared.